Hey guys, guess what? It's Angel. You're watching my latest video. And today's video I wanted to talk about paranoia and delusional thinking. I don't know why that makes me laugh. Because anyway, first off, I wanted to start by saying that I am not qualified to give any advice. I am not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor. I am just sharing with you my experience in dealing with my bipolar disorder, my panic disorder, my anxiety, and my OCD-like tendencies. So, I recently read this article it's called Bipolar Hope magazine, and I follow their page on Facebook. And the article that I read dealt with paranoia and delusional thinking. And so I thought that it would be just a really great topic to talk about with you and just share with you my experience dealing with it. So paranoia for me is a big clue that I am dealing with hypomania, but more so if I start to have paranoid thinking, paranoia or delusional thinking, I would say, is a big indicator for me that I am experiencing more of a manic type situation. Excuse me. So one of the things that helps me, because I don't always see the symptoms as they sort of rear their ugly heads. One of the blessings that I have in my life is I have a really great support system. And my husband can he will let me know if I am expressing to him things that are not rational. Sometimes I'm able to catch myself if I'm sort of going over into the deep end, I will say. But sometimes I'm not able to catch those things. But specifically, I want to share with you the situation that happened to me before my hospitalization. And it started really, and I had this in the past, but it was before my bipolar diagnosis, so I really didn't have any information as far as something to let me know that this is what the definition of what was going on with me. I didn't have that information. But since I have had my bipolar diagnosis, which I got in 2013, was my diagnosis, and because of before my hospitalization and what was happening to me, and the things that I've read, and once you get your diagnosis, if you're like me, you've just tried to educate yourself as much as possible, so that you kind of know what to look for. You understand your illness a little bit more. Now that I know what to look for, it's easier for me to spot when these things pop up. So before my hospitalization, and sorry, let me get a drink. Before my hospitalization, the way that it started manifesting first was a social situation that it centered around church gatherings. And we have a women's organization that was meeting once a month, and we would get together, and basically it was just a social activity. And what would happen was, if you could imagine like a school activity where a bunch of women would get together, or let's say a bunch of girls would get together and just visit. And so different groups will break off into different areas. And these were all people I knew, and I was friends with not best friends that we hung out all the time, but you know, sometimes we would do like girls' nights or whatever. And all of these all of these women would break off into groups and just kind of hang out. And what I was experiencing, or what I started to experience, was I would see these women in different groups, and instead of having, you know, rational thoughts like, oh, there's a group of women and I know them, and why don't I go over and talk to them and enjoy being with them, and then I could look over and say, oh, there's another group and I know those women and they're having a good time. Why don't I go over and, you know, talk with them for a while? So instead of having those rational thoughts, what was happening to me is I would see, you know, different groups of women visiting, and I would start, so I would have the rational part of my brain, but then I would have this paranoid delusional thinking part of my brain that was telling me, feeding me thoughts that were more like, oh, those women are over there. I know that they're looking at me and they're picking me apart. They're saying, look at how she's dressed. I don't like how she's dressed. Look at her hair. I don't like her hair. I really don't like, you know, when she hangs around. I don't like the things that she talks about. I really don't like her. Let's not include her. The next time we go out for a girls' night, let's not call her. Like, you know, just like in my paranoid mind, I was thinking that they were just tearing me down, that they didn't want to include me. And I was thinking that not just the one group of women were doing it, but that all of the women were doing it. And that basically they were all sort of plotting against me, and that none of them liked me. And then as I would see pictures on Facebook of, you know, different women gathering together and I wasn't there, it was further confirmation for me that my paranoid thoughts were real. And so I was experiencing things like that. And that's kind of how it started. And then it ballooned into thoughts that there were cameras in my house. And so I was having thoughts that there were cameras in every room in our home. And my thoughts were that the cameras were like CCTV cameras, like closed circuit TV cameras. And I was thinking that there were people watching these CCTVs and monitoring them. And eventually, the only place that I felt safe in our home to change clothes or anything like that was our closet. And I even went to extremes as far as like when I showered, we had like a glass, you know, most showers have like glass enclosures. So I would take towels and I would like throw the towels over the glass, kind of like so it made like a curtain on the glass, and that's how I would shower. So, you know, it was like it kind of like snowballed and just kept rolling and rolling until I broke and ended up in the hospital. And there were some other contributing factors as to what put me in the hospital. And if you haven't seen my videos, you can go back and I talk about those things in some of my previous videos. But that is kind of in a nutshell what my some of my experiences with paranoid and delusional thinking. And when I am not getting enough sleep and I'm on the hypomanic side, that sometimes delves more into the manic side, when I fall into that category, that is when I'm more susceptible to having that delusional thinking. And so it's really, really important for me to, as my psychiatrist says, to protect my sleep, to make sure I'm getting sleep, and at least like 8 hours of sleep a night. And if I can get a little bit more than that, it's even better. And currently I am not having paranoid or delusional thinking, but my sleep patterns are not what they should be, and so we're working on that. But when I read the article, I thought that it was probably an important topic to make a video on, because it is something that I deal with, and I know that there's a lot of people that have bipolar that do deal with it. My good friend who has bipolar does not deal with paranoid thinking, delusional thinking, but she has some other symptoms of bipolar that she deals with that I don't deal with. So, there are a lot of symptoms that come with bipolar, and even if you don't deal with all of the symptoms, you can have, a combination of some, or not a combination, but you can have some of the symptoms but not all, and you still fall under the diagnosis of bipolar. So anyway, as I have said in previous videos, I would love for you to leave comments down below and let me know if you do deal with this, and if so, what are some things that you do, or how would I word it? Do you have support in your life that they help you to see those red flags when you are starting to have paranoia or delusional thinking? Also, I guess I would say this. This was the other thing. For me, and maybe you do this, and I hope you do this, for me, I try to read as much as I can and educate myself as much as I can on my disorders. Because I feel like the more educated I can be, the more ammunition I have against my illness, and the better off I will be at managing my illness. And I feel like that it applies to anyone with any illness. Somebody that has diabetes, they're going to probably read up and get to know as much as they can about their illness. My son has Crohn's disease, and he reads all he can about his illness and the best practices to manage his illness, and I know that people with other illnesses do the same. So as always, I always want to say this in my videos, and that is, you're not alone in your illness. If you deal with bipolar or paranoia and delusional thinking, or whatever, depression, anxiety, you're not alone in your struggles and in your journey. There are people out here like myself and like others that are in it with you. So with that, I will say, I hope you're having a great day. I hope you have a great week. And I hope you like this video. And until we talk again, bye.